let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Justin Paperny with White Collar Advice and Prison Professors, and today I'm pleased and proud to welcome my friend and client, Rich Davis, to the program. Hi, Rich.
Hey, Justin. How you doing?
Well, thank you, Rich. Let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your story, and I'll start with the fact that you're surrendering to federal prison tomorrow, to the federal prison camp in Montgomery, for 90 months, which I know is a long sentence. So tell us a little bit about yourself and some steps you're taking to prepare for your surrender tomorrow morning.
Well, a little about myself is that I have, through this process, met my Lifetime Achievement Award, the love of my life. Her name is Danielle. In addition to that, I have twin 10-year-old boys, Ashton and Connor. And this process has been very hard. And the thing that really drew me to you and Michael was that you really truly feel like you've gone through segregation, and you really feel like you've been in incarceration from the time that you go under investigation and the press releases start. Because at that point, you really feel like you're no longer part of society. And you know that through what you've been through, and I've watched your videos. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. So for people that don't understand, I was under investigation in February of 2015. I wasn't sentenced till June 25th of 2018, and I report October 1st, 2018. And it's been a very long and hard journey. You've been sympathize and understand.
You felt like you've been in jail this whole time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You get no credit for it.
You get no credit. One of the first lectures I gave in Arkansas, of all places, someone said to me, "I appreciate your lecture. It's hard for me to have sympathy for you because it's not like you have cancer that you didn't choose to have. You committed a white-collar crime, and it's hard for me to have sympathy for you." So there's a bit of an otherness that comes from this. People don't yet really know how to respond or treat us because it's like we chose to do this. So over the last 3 years, you found the love of your life, Danielle, with whom I've had the pleasure of speaking. I know she's also spoken with Ro Clausen, a member of our team. Have you faced some ostracism from people in your network? Have people run to you, from you? Talk a little bit about your network a little bit and how that's played out over the last 3 years.
Well, I've been an investor. I've been an angel investor. I've been a venture investor. And I've helped individuals start companies, publicly traded companies. And I've gone back to those same individuals and I asked them to speak on my behalf at my sentencing. And I asked them to show up on my behalf at my sentencing. And they told me that I was a black sheep in the community, that everyone knew my story, everyone had been following my story, everyone knew the press releases. And just so you know, all press releases aren't true, and everybody that's in this position knows that. But the reality is that I was the black sheep of the family. I was the black sheep of the community. But when they needed me for money and they needed me to start the business, I was there for them. And I was on the board of their companies. But now I'm the guy that they don't want to be associated with. They couldn't write me a letter to the judge. And they couldn't show up for me when it came time to stand on my behalf. And that hurt very much.
Yes, I can relate to the pain. Rich and I began working together after he was sentenced. And on our first call, Rich asked if I read any of the press releases, and I said, you know what, but I haven't read them because I know they're one-sided. It's a narrative or a version of events the government's seeking to sell, and I'd rather hear your background, your story, your future, and what you'd like to achieve in prison from you rather than what the government could have put out there. So that surprises some potential clients, I think, when I haven't done all of this massive amounts of research. I want to hear directly from you, and shortly after our call, I knew I wanted to work with you and help guide you through this process. So as we're guiding through this process, knowing that 24 hours from now you'll be in federal prison, I'd like to hear some of your specific goals. As I mentioned, a number of people reach out to me both before and after prison wanting to do a video perhaps, but they want to lament on the system, blame other people. That's not what we do here. You have children, I have children. You want to create a positive record that someday they can look back on and say, I'm not embarrassed of what my father went through. He learned from it, and I'm better because of it. So I want to get specific in what you hope to, as I drool here, forgive me. I want to get specific in what you hope to achieve, not over the 90-month sentence, over tomorrow, the next week, the next month. Let's get specific into those goals so people who love and support you can hold you accountable. So let's hear about what you want to do.
Well, I don't know really who coined the term. There's two people that credit the term to, E.F. Hutton and Theodore Roosevelt, the buck stops here. But at the end of the day, in all reality, my clients invested in me. They didn't invest in a project or an opportunity to make money. They invested in me. So at the end of the day, I have to hold myself responsible for what happened and the end result. So I can't blame anyone else. So starting from day one, I want to hold myself accountable for the situation that I'm in. I want to hold myself accountable for the situation that my clients are in. And the government likes to call them victims. I like to call them my clients and my family because that's the way I feel about them. But you'll hear the term victims very often. And it's very sad that that's what they become. And it's very true. That's what they become. So I want to hold myself accountable. And I've done a lot of work with Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure you've heard of that book and that program. Think and Grow Rich has a program called the Action Pack. And I want to spend a lot of time writing out my goals. And I want to be able to speak my goals aloud. And speak my goals aloud with conviction, once in the morning and once at night. And I want to be able to hold myself accountable for those goals. So you've asked me some things. I think for a guy my size, I do Spartan races and I do mud runs and those type of things. And I've always told my children, I'm more of the rhinoceros. I'm not the cheetah. So I'm never going to win this race, but I'm going to finish the race.
That's right. Slow and
so you know that.
Yep.
So in my reality of the size of my body, I think a 20% body fat would be a good thing. Some people would say 15. 15 is more for bodybuilding. I don't really think I need to be there. That's a whole different strict diet. So I think if I could get myself to 20% body fat, I'd be very happy. I know that's something you worked on when you got there. But in addition to that, I want to read a minimum of a book a month. And I don't care what the size of the book is, but if it was a larger book, that'd be great, a smaller book. But a minimum of a book a month, if not 2 books a month. I would say 250 pages per book for the book a month program. And I want to be able to set myself goals and be able to educate and learn, be able to get more training and be able to get more learning. I don't know how it works exactly for the correspondence courses with college and things like that, but I want to be able to learn and be able to gain more knowledge while I'm there, be able to advance my ability to be able to hit the ground running when I get out. And I want to do that from day one. So day one, let me tell you what day one looks like. Day one looks like for me, based on my coaching with White Collar Advice, my day one looks like I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk to my case coordinator, I'm going to get it searched, I'm going to go in and I'm going to find out where my cubicle is, and then I'm going to find out who's assigning jobs. From the point of finding out who's assigning jobs, I'm going to find out who's in charge of assigning those jobs to this area that I'm going to be assigned to be able to make sure I can do the best of the worst job that I can get. And so if that's sweeping floors or washing dishes, whatever it is, I'll get the best of the worst because I know I'm a newbie and I have no seniority. And I'll get that. And then from the time that I do my job, I'll spend my time creating a schedule. I'll create a schedule that will allow for me to work out and then allow for me to continue my education and continue my learning and my knowledge. And I hope to be able to find other White Collar Advice customers, clients while I'm in there.
They're there.
2 or 3 that you have.
Yep.
And be able to build a network so we can all help influence each other, be a positive influence on each other, and create a network that would allow for us to be able to be better for each other.
So for some of you watching, I mentioned to Rich, you may not get assigned a job for 10 days, 14 days, 21 days. It was 17 days in my case as you go through an admission process. And during that time, it's a good idea to be proactive, to walk around the community, to look for a job that may interest you, recreation, orderly, agriculture, who knows, warehouse, and to be proactive. And if there's an opening, go to your case manager, put in a request for that job. Sometimes, as they told me, put in a request for whatever you want. You're going to the kitchen where I served time at Taft Federal Prison Camp. That's fine. Doesn't mean you can't be proactive. And that's what I encourage for all of you to be incredibly proactive. Let's transition for a moment to working our way back. I have frequently said time before is the toughest part, but coming home if you're not ready can be difficult. There's a lot of people on the other side of prison saying, my gosh, now what? So you're 42, children. What would you like to do when you come home with a sullied reputation, with a network that's been hit a bit? I can relate to all of these as a white-collar criminal. What would you like to do when you come home? And so talk to us a little bit about the goals on the other side, as far away as it may seem.
Well, there's two sides to that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'd like to be able to say to the people listening to this video is I've learned a whole lot of what not to do before you go in.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is of what not to do before you go in. Stop procrastinating.
Yeah.
You really, really, really need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You need to stop blaming others. You need to stop holding everybody else accountable for your failure or your problems.
Mm-hmm.
You need to hold yourself accountable. And you really honestly need to go ahead and put this schedule that we're talking about that you're going to have when you go to prison in place before you go to prison.
Yep.
Start working out before you go to prison. Start communicating with your family before you go to prison. Stop ignoring your friends and family. Create your 100 name list. Don't wait till the last minute to do it. I have 24 hours before I go in, and I have to create a 100 name list. Are you kidding me? That's a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to individuals that are watching this video is to latch on to Justin, latch on to his team, because they are very good at what they do. I'm so happy that I've been able to build a relationship with them and have them as my advisors. And as much as that is Danielle is too, my girlfriend. So it's so important for you to be able to have that relationship. But more importantly is stop procrastinating. Do not wait, because you don't want to spend your last week before you report trying to get all that stuff done. It's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Get all your stuff done in advance and then spend your last week loving on the people that you love the most. The things I'm going to do when I get out is love on the people that I love the most. I'm going to hug them. I'm going to be able to do all the things I haven't been able to do while I was in there. Obviously, you know more about that, Justin, than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to create a business plan, and I'm going to know exactly what I have to do to be able to be successful when I get out, and be able to tell my story and be able to admit and own what I did wrong to get there, and be able to move forward and be able to grow from this experience.
So, Rich, recently I filmed a video at USC, and I had it recorded, not necessarily to put on YouTube, which I may do, but for my children. My son is 4 months old, my daughter's 4 years old, and they're going to hear someday that their father went to prison and hear both good and bad from people in our community, I suppose. But I filmed it because someday I want them to hear from me what I did, why, and what I learned from it. And it's just very important to me that they're able to hopefully take something away from this experience, which makes it more meaningful. So it's not a total and complete waste. So talk to us about a couple of habits you may want to quit on the inside, together with a couple of life lessons you hope your children glean from this experience, that they could refer to this video 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about some habits you want to quit, together with what you hope your children learn from this experience.
Yeah, I would say that you live for today, you don't live for tomorrow. You love for today, don't love for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Use as much of your energy as you can to live in the moment, and don't push it out for tomorrow. A lot of our children today are playing video games, whether it's Fortnite or other video games, Smash Brothers or whatever, and you really need to spend time with your family, and you need to learn from those situations. So for me, it's live in the moment. Live for today. And what I've learned is accept responsibility. I think one of the things that you and I hold true in our story is that we were in denial in the beginning of what we did wrong, and we wouldn't admit it, and we wouldn't take ownership of it. And it takes time to be able to do that. And for your story, thank goodness that you found Michael.
Yep.
And for my story, thank goodness that I found you. And so, take ownership of what you do, and admit it and say, I'm sorry, and talk to those people that were hurt and admit it and say, I'm sorry, and then move forward. Because a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, people will forgive you if you give them the opportunity to forgive you. They'll forgive you and they'll move forward.
And also, it's okay if everybody doesn't. Some relationships end. There's the stigma that follows, and others can choose to judge us for the rest of our life for bad decisions we made, and think that it would be impossible for them to ever make decisions when faced with pressure. I'd encourage you, as your friend and counselor or consultant, and you do this well, we don't need everyone back into our life. It's important that we maintain our dignity. There were some people that I wrote, people that I hoped would write a letter on my behalf, and after a couple of times I could tell they went dark on me. And I remember thinking, yeah, their letter would be great, but not at the expense of my dignity. I'm just going to move on. And 10 years home or removed from prison, I say the same thing to you now. Even some of you tend to focus on the negative, I suppose, but I look at comments that I get on some of my YouTube videos, and they don't know me. They don't know my family. They don't know my character, but they hear white collar crime and they immediately judge and presume something terrible. And some advice to you is to know who your friends are and to prove worthy of those relationships. So let's begin to let's wrap up this video with some questions or some more thoughts on the inside. How do you think you can better nurture your network while in prison? There was not email while I was in prison. You know how productive I was with my blog and my book. So do you have aspirations to someday write a book or blog? I know you've done YouTube videos and you're a very successful entrepreneur and businessman. I need you thinking about life on the other side. And to do that well, you have to be nurturing relationships from the inside, as Michael Santos taught me. So talk a little bit about how you plan to nurture a relationship or many relationships while on the inside.
Well, I've written 2 books already, and the reality for me is if I write books, based on my promise to my significant other and my family, is there'll be books that'll be geared towards mentoring and coaching on how to help other people get through these hurdles and situations that they're going through. I really had no idea when I was an aspiring business person, financial person, out of college and working for myself for 15 years, that any of this would ever happen. So in all reality, I want to take the learning experiences that I have and all the wisdom that I've learned, all the guidance, all the emotional intelligence that I've gotten, and be able to use that to help other individuals, whether it's through white collar advice or whether it's through my own blog or whatever I do. I still want to be able to help others be able to navigate themselves through this minefield. It creates this thing about a federal indictment from the Department of Justice or the Securities and Exchange Commission or the FBI or whoever, whatever government agency that does it, is that if you're a good guy or a good person and you're not a criminal and you don't know how to think like a criminal, you have no idea how to navigate yourself through this situation. And so I want to be able to help mentor and coach other people on how to be able to navigate themselves through what I've been through and be able to learn from this experience and how to be successful on the other side.
So as we close, you've mentioned Michael Santos, my mentor, someone whom I met in prison. He'd been in for 22 years when I shook his hand. You're further along than I was, frankly, but before you're further along than I was. When I surrendered, I was so overwhelmed with all I had to do. I wanted to get in shape and make money and build a business and try to someday hope my victims would forgive me and think about how I'm going to get married and have kids and so much to do that I could never get started. And Michael said to me, he really helped me embrace this slow and steady, the tortoise and the hare. Be deliberate. Small goals, as cliche as it sounds, truly adds up over time. And that's why I opened this video by saying, not what are you going to do over the next 90 months with early release and halfway house is going to be measurably less, but what can you do tomorrow and what can you do next week? And I guess that's how I'll close this video and turn it back over to you and see if you have any closing thoughts for me, for people who may be watching who are at home despondent, nervous, scared about what life is like and in prison, or just offer some final takeaways for others watching as you prepare to surrender to Montgomery Federal Prison Camp tomorrow, if anything.
Well, I don't have all the answers. And the thing that makes me feel most at peace is that I've engaged you as my counselor, as my advisor, as my friend now, because I guess we're in some weird alumni. And I feel at peace because if I don't have all the answers to all the questions, I can reach out to you via email, and I know that you'll give me guidance and you'll help me along the way. So I think engaging your group, White Collar Advice, was the best thing that I could have done because I procrastinated. So I've only engaged you in the last week. I have 1 week to show up. You've been kind enough to clear your schedule to spend time with me and Danielle, and I appreciate that very much. But more importantly is I don't have all the answers to the questions that you're asking. But what I do know is that as I go through that path, I'll be able to reach out to you and you'll give me some guidance and you'll be my coach. And I don't doubt that for 1 second.
Last but not least, forgive me, we haven't mentioned Josh. Josh is a newer member to my team, served 17 years in prison, had his sentence commuted by President Obama. Josh is both a consultant and our lead RDAP consultant. Can you just briefly touch on the value you found in speaking with Joshua Boyer and just briefly touch on that?
Josh is a rock star.
Yeah.
Josh spent an hour and a half. Josh went to his boss's daughter's birthday party. And he texted me and he said, "Can I talk to you tomorrow morning?" And I said, "No, I'm exhausted. I'd rather talk to you now. I'm driving from North Carolina to Atlanta, and I got to drive to Pensacola." And so Josh at 10:30 at night got on the phone with me for an hour and a half Eastern Standard Time. So he was on the phone until almost 12 or 1 in the morning. And he stayed on the phone with me, and he answered all my questions. He answered all Danielle's questions. He was amazing. So the team at White Collar Advice is 5-star. And if you guys procrastinate, or if you get in on the front end, hopefully you get on the front end, on the back end like I did. But you're not going to go wrong in making a decision to try to hire these guys as your advisors, because they're going to be there for you no matter what. They've been there. They've done that. Josh was in 7 different prisons in 5 different states over 17 years. He got a clemency. And it's amazing to have those kind of people on your team. It's really worth it. So I can't speak any better than for these guys than what I'm trying to tell you. Go ahead and make the decision to hire these guys as your advisors.
Well, that means a lot to all of us. And I can tell you 24 hours from now, you'll be in, and within a couple of days, I will get an email invitation from you through Core Links, and I'll look forward to connecting with you and continuing to work with you throughout your journey. So thank you for sharing some of your precious time on a Sunday before you surrendered to prison, and it's been a privilege working with you. Thank you again for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Justin.
My pleasure, bud.
All right.